the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100. We're just going over what to be looking for this week going into trading specifically. Now, we look at what happened in this week. Obviously, you had the Nasdaq pushing down to 19K, bouncing off that level, finding some buyers where you needed to. You go into something like the ES, the S&P 500 futures. You're coming back down into basically your 5450 level, bouncing off that level. You have a little bit of support down here too at like 5400 flat as well. But again, bouncing where you need to. You go to Dow. You did have some weakness here, okay? Dow ended up losing its 40,700 level, your previous all-time high, but then you remounted at the end of the week. Doesn't look bad. You go to Russell, IWM, mounting its previous high, pushing back up. Looks incredibly strong. Mid-caps look great. Now, I will say, things are bouncing where they need to bounce. However, Nasdaq and tech look the most terrifying, if we had to say anything right now, because we still have some earnings that are coming into play. This is my Twitter, so you guys can follow it. The link is down below. Make sure to keep the charts posted for you. The next week or so, I'm going to be slower on content, just to let you guys know, but letting you heads up there. But this week, again, Tuesdays when earnings really start again. AMD, Microsoft on Tuesday after hours. Wednesday after hours, Meta, ARM, QCOM, Carvana, LRCX. Thursday, your big day, Amazon, Apple, Intel, Coinbase, DraftKings, Roku, Square. A lot of names happening here, right? So that's just the tip of the iceberg. I forgot to mention this in yesterday's video as well. Wednesday, another big day here, right? Your interest rate decision and your FOMC meeting. Now, I don't think that this FOMC meeting is going to be too big of a shocker. This is my personal opinion. Let me break it down very quickly. If we're looking at the calendar, I think right now you're probably not getting a rate cut at this meeting, unlikely at August. What's likely to happen is they're going to set up the decision for a rate cut to happen in September. That's the most likely scenario. So any rhetoric, any mention of a rate cut, any mention of confidence in the market or confidence in what's happening or getting closer towards the goal, very strong rhetoric and movement for the overall market, okay? So understand that, be watching that. I'll be watching it. FOMC will be very important, but again, combined with what's happening with earnings, I think earnings will have the most initial movement. For instance, I think FOMC could go pretty decent, but if Meta and ARM miss, the market's going to tank. My opinion, they might recover the next day with Amazon and Apple, but again, earnings will give the most immediate reaction to the market. So again, there's a lot of things you have to be paying attention to. That's very important to understand. So, but again, we go back to here and we look at indexes. I will say the Russell IWM looks the best, bouncing where it needs to, looks extremely, extremely strong. Dow, second runner-up, ES, third, and then Nasdaq actually looking kind of the worst, okay? I mean, you had a good bounce where you needed to, but you needed back above 19.7, 19.4 to have any remote strength, okay? Understand that right now. That right now the Nasdaq is trending in a specific zone, and until you get out of this, you really have no clear-cut direction between 19.3, 19.4, and down of 19K, just back and forth pinning down here. And you're not making higher highs, or you're kind of making higher lows, but I don't have extreme confidence in what's happening here, okay? That's something that you need to understand. So that's the basis of what's happening to begin this week and what we're looking forward to. Also, too, guys, if you guys are interested in the Discord, it opens up every single month, the beginning of the month. We also post this on Twitter. But if you are interested in joining, it's just optiondrops.com/waitlist. The link will be down below. So if you want to get on that list to be able to join, make sure you tap in. I'll also have stuff posted on Twitter. So make sure you're following on Twitter as well. So you guys can stay updated. I should have Jay logged in my Twitter too, so he can also be posting charts as well on the platform. So hopefully you guys are getting as much content as you need. So those are a few things that we're looking at right now. Okay, broad market wise going into this. Now, typically I'm giving more option plays, what I'm looking at there. I don't want to jump the gun and I don't want to just be hammering home, hey, trade this, trade that, this and that, right? I'll say what I said yesterday, okay? Weakest names if we're getting downside. Okay, if we're getting downside of the market, I'm looking to trade AMD down to 133, 134. Under 141, AMD is incredibly, incredibly weak. Number two, Tesla. As long as Tesla, if it gets below 215, you're trading this down to the 200 MA, 205. If it gets above 226, you trade it back into the 200 weekly, back into 233, 231, right? So in this range, no trade zone. You break out of this range, it's a trade zone. So again, what you're looking for there, don't overcomplicate it. If you're like, Tyler, what do you do if it's in the range? You don't trade it. Very simple, okay? Big things to understand there. Going into this week with earnings, my favorite earnings play. I'm going to keep it very simple. Microsoft. I love Microsoft. I love what's happening here. Now, what I will say, and I'm not going to jump to conclusions here, right, is you are still in the downtrend, right? We can still understand we're in that downtrend. Also, guys, if you're interested in our indicators, I always forget to shout them out. And you never see my volume indicator because I use it mainly for day trading. But this is all with Lux Algo. The link is down below. You have to use our code. You'll get 40% off too. So make sure you check it out. Anyways, so going back into this, you can see Microsoft in a downtrend clearly. But in my opinion, if Microsoft can start getting back above 430, I think that they're getting hammered from the CrowdStrike news way more than they should. I think it's a value name at this point, and I think the earnings are going to have some upside. But again, I'd wait till earnings before I do anything crazy or start buying or YOLOing, anything like that. My second favorite is probably, I like Amazon a lot. I like it a lot, but I feel more comfortable with something like Apple. If Apple can report what I think they're going to report, again, I like having a clean chart here, and you get back above 220, I think you look really good. So really quick here on Apple, you can see that you're rejecting so far for 220. So before earnings, I'm not looking to trade this. But I'm telling you now, if they announce increased sales in China, good outlook for India sales, more production coming out. They're getting more traction, more popularity with the ChatGPT search engine on Mac now. These are all things that can stimulate sales and really stimulate the entire market of Apple. If it increases the sales of Mac, then you have to assume that it will double or greatly increase the sales of the new iPhone, which will have the search feature on it as well. So again, things to think about, things to be watching. Apple hasn't really had a big add-on to the iPhone in a while. I think this could be the big one in my opinion. I'd be watching this very closely. So above 220, that's what you're looking for there. Okay, those are my top names for the week. Now, going on from this, names that have already had earnings are going to have earnings later on. I like NVIDIA a lot, but you got to get above 818. Below 818, I'm not interested here, guys. You're already below 116, and that's been a big level now. So I'm being very cautious here, but I do like leaps on NVIDIA. I think it's a good-looking stock, good-looking overall name. But until you can get back over these levels, you got to be patient, and you're expecting kind of some downside here. I do think ARM's earnings will have a big factor or a big play with NVIDIA and other semiconductors. I would actually argue that ARM's earnings are going to have more of an impact than AMD's earnings on this week. AMD's revenue has been the same for like 3 years now. It's kind of like it's stuck at $6 billion. It can't get over it, right? ARM, new kid on the block, right? Great growth outlook. Buyers stepping in like crazy. I think they have more room to shock at least. So again, ARM gets back above 164. It's an all-in long back into all-time highs. But again, I'd be a fool to not mention the amount of downside that you could potentially have, going into 136. Okay, so you don't want to start jumping the gun, right? Be safe, be careful. That's where we're looking right now. Let's not get crazy, okay? Also, too, guys, again, I'm not going over too much options on the day, but every video I do go over options. So if you're new to the channel, recommend subscribing because you go over options every single day here. But this is the broker that I've been using, the broker that I use every single day here on the channel. They're having a huge add-on for their new bonuses. So you check it out. The link is down below for all their new bonuses right now. So if you sign up or transfer, you're going to get free stocks, etc. But again, look at the fine print, look at the details. It's all there for you. But again, I love their platform, has been great for fills, great for customer support, and they're actually making a new hands-on platform as well like this to make it simpler, easier to understand, and more comparable to the big guys as well. So definitely check them out. The link is down below. But again, those are my favorite names right now. Now, the last I'm going to finish up is this DXY and what's happening here as well. Some fundamental stuff. So this is boring. You can leave if you need to. Now, if I go into DXY, you're trending at the 200 SMA, as you can see here. Again, I don't think it's coincidental that you're trending at the 200 SMA on DXY and the 30-year yield is also trending there as well, right? As we come into our next rate decision, which now this next rate decision has the most implications of a rate cut to come very soon. Very important that we're understanding what's happening here. If rate cuts are to come, you have to assume yields tank, the dollar tanks, and that it comes back to a risk-on environment. Another great way to look at a risk-on environment is when we look at something like RTY, the riskiest assets overall, the Russell 2000, right? We look back at the Russell, and again, you are back at levels you have not been to since 2021. Very important to understand where we're at and how we're trading. You are moving violently. You are moving very strong. Mid and small caps are getting a lot of the love. It's been a clear sector rotation into Dow and into the Russell. Eventually, and I assume it's going to be after earnings, is when money can flow back into tech. personal opinion. So that's what we're looking at right now and what I'd be paying very close attention to. So I still think a risk on environment is upon us. And I still think we look overall very good. And on top of that as well, you look at something like oil, which continues to get destroyed now. You got back below the 200 SMAs and you broke through this with ease. This is a giant concern. And you have to assume this oil prices in the next month going into September when they start doing these rate cuts, if they're going to do them then, well, guess what? The inflation reports are going to continue to read in a great measure because every time oil is dropped, we've seen inflation drop. Again, don't quote me. Go look back at the data. Let the data speaks for itself. I don't speak for the data, okay? Again, so when we look at this, back in April is when we started seeing oil drop. Then in May, we had the first reading of inflation dropping again. Then in June, we had another one. Then in July, we had another one. So again, what we're looking for, what we're looking at. I think the market looks hot. I think the market looks good. Bitcoin also, I told you about this one. You're getting rejected at your key level once again. Now, Bitcoin is a catch-22. I do believe, though, if Trump gets elected, you're going to see an explosion on crypto and Bitcoin. He has been the most pro-Bitcoin politician that I've ever seen. So, but I'm telling you, there's a few good things that are on the line for us and what we're looking for. You have one, the Fed meeting. That's going to be important, but I think it's a layup. I think also two earnings, very important. Those could go either way on some of these names, specifically AMD. I don't think it's going to go that well. Most likely, they haven't done anything crazy, but I could be up for a surprise. So again, things to be looking at, things to be looking forward to. Let's get to work. I'll see you guys tomorrow.